Welcome back, everybody, and thank you for joining us here on Instagram once again for another Waldorf Wine Wednesday. Hey, I'm Christian Laroche, sales manager for Waldorf Wine Group here in Vancouver, and so glad you could join us here. Waldorf Wine Wednesday, as the name implies, this is something that we started up back in May of 2020. Yeah, this is our way of pivoting online to bring you Waldorf Wine Group content here on Instagram. And it's a great way for us. It's a clearinghouse of all things Waldorf Wine Group. We look at wines that we are currently bringing into the market. We look at some samples of wines that we're thinking of bringing into market. We discuss promos that might be happening, winery visits that we might be doing, wine dinners that we might be putting on, and everything Waldorf Wine Group related. For those of you not familiar, Waldorf Wine Group, we've been around since 1993. We're a small family-owned wine importing company founded by Andy Waldorf, still firmly at the helm, and still bringing in some great quality European wines, both here in British Columbia and Alberta. And well, what else can I tell you? Yeah, we have a pretty interesting portfolio. We run the gamut: small family-owned producers, co-op cellars, very, very high-end chateaus, Burgundy producers, bodegas, vine guts, and everything in between. So, yeah, so if you haven't done so already, I do invite you to follow us on Instagram. It's a great way to keep up to date. Pardon me, I'm posting there all the time, keeping you up to date on what's going on here with all things Waldorf Wine Group. I'm really pleased tonight. I decided to have a little rummage through the cellar and have a look. So we're kind of going back to our roots. Waldorf Wine Group, that's one of the things we're known for. We bring in a lot of Bordeaux. Have been doing so for many, many years. We're very fortunate in Bordeaux. We go every year, every April, to taste the new vintage when it's still in barrel. And, in Bordeaux, it's an interesting setup. You can't actually walk up to somebody's front door and ring their doorbell and say, hey, I want to buy your wine. You need an introduction. You need a middle person to, make that happen. And in Bordeaux, the system is that you need a representative on your behalf to make the introduction, cultivate the relationship between you and the various chateaus. And it's interesting. It's an old system that's still very much in place. And we're very fortunate. There's probably about 400 representatives working in and around Bordeaux. And we're very, very fortunate to work with absolutely one of the top tier. It's a négociant. We work with a company called Verret-Latour, one of the absolute top tier négociants in Bordeaux. We buy all our wines directly from the chateaus or directly from our agent's warehouse. So a lot of people, and especially I'll make the point today, we're trying a very, very high-end wine today. I'll reveal it in a quick second here, from a very good vintage. And a lot of people, when they're buying wine from us here, they ask, well, why are your prices higher than other agents and things like that? Well, sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. It depends what you're buying. But the other thing, too, is especially when you're getting into some of these higher-end Bordeaux wines, provenance. It's all about origin and being able to verify that origin, because we generally don't look for wines that have been moving around an awful lot. Like if a restaurant, say, decides to close shop and sell off their cellar, or a private individual sells their cellar, etc. How do you know the source of those wines? How has it been stored? How many times has it been moved? Has it been done with refrigerated shipping, etc.? There's so many things to consider. So we're always on the lookout for perfect provenance, either direct from the chateau or direct from our suppliers, sellers who would have bought it direct from the chateau as well. So That's what we're looking for. In the case I'm talking a little bit here, I'm rambling a wee bit. Hey, I see a few more people joining us here that I haven't seen for a while. Good to see you, David Lancelot. Nice to see you. I see Stage and Fernwood and Suzanne Callahan. Very good. Very glad you guys could join us tonight. Let's flip the camera. I'm going to show you what we're doing. As I said, had a bottle of this in the cellar. It's a great left bank Bordeaux Chateau from a fantastic vintage. And I just wanted to check in to see how it's doing. This one is a long haul wine that I thought, I want to see where it's at. So let's flip the camera, show what we're trying. We are on the left bank in Pauillac. We are with, Chateau Pontet Canet. This is a Grand Cru Classe property from the 1855 Bordeaux classification. And it is one of the absolute most sought after chateaus, and it's one that definitely punches well above its appellation, not appellation, but its designation or classification in the 1855 classification, which still holds quite a bit of sway today. So this is Chateau Pontet Canet in Pauillac from the fantastic 2010 vintage. Really fantastic vintage, but definitely built to last. So I was curious to see how this one was showing, 14 years on, and seeing what's going on with it. Pontet Canet, this was classified in the 1855 Bordeaux classification as a fifth growth, which is, for the Cru Classes, there are 5 tiers. So this is basically on the lowest tier, but that's not necessarily indicative of the quality. In fact, this is a bit of a wolf in sheep's clothing in regard to the classification. So this is a property that's literally just across the road from Chateau Mouton Rothschild. Very, very similar soils. It's an old property, and in fact, it's only had, I think in the last 3 or so centuries, 3 different owners. Back in 1757, it was purchased by Jean-François Pontet, and they also expanded the vineyards and took over a vineyard portion called Le Canet, so hence it became Pontet Canet. After the 1855 classification, in 1865, Henri Cruz, whose family, of course, runs the Cruz Négociants, purchased the property. And then back in 1975, the Tesseron family, Guy Tesseron, of the Tesseron Cognac family, purchased the estate, and it's still in the same hands today. It's run by Alfred Tesseron and his daughter, and it's a very, very cool estate. It's going to flip the camera around once more. Like I said, interesting insofar as it's a fully certified organic estate, and it's also a biodynamic estate. 2010 was the first vintage where Chateau Pontet Canet was certified organic and biodynamic. So pretty cool. Organics, of course, we're not using any pesticides or chemical fertilizers and additives. Biodynamics is essentially, it's a more detailed extension of organics. So basically what it is, it's a self-sustaining approach. It's a more holistic approach, I guess, to vineyard management. It follows the teachings, the principles of Rudolf Steinert. And it takes organics to a further level where you're basically treating your entire property as a living organism, both for the flora, the fauna, cover crop, the animals that live there, the bacterial culture that exists beneath the soil. And it's not self-healing, so to speak, but what it is it's an approach that follows the astral calendar as well, and the rhythms of the earth and the seasons as well for all the vineyard practices. and also to create its own fertility and create a healthier soil. It's really, really interesting, very, very labor intensive, but they started doing it only with their Merlot vines back in 2004. Alfred Tesseron was looking at it, but he was, I guess, not convinced, but, sold on the idea as well. But along with his Chateau director, Jean-Michel Combes, who joined them back in 1989. And they started only working in 2004 with their Merlot grapes. But they found the results, they were so impressed with the results that they switched everything over to biodynamic starting in 2005. Currently, they are farming 81 hectares, which is split up over about 100 different plots. The vineyard's planted to about 65% Cabernet Sauvignon, 30% Merlot, 4% Cabernet Franc, 1% Petit Verdot. Vines on average 50 years old, with a vine density of 9,500 vines per hectare. And the thing too, with Chateau Pontet Canet, they also, because of their approach with organics and biodynamics, they also really, really, really restrict their yields. They on average, they're some of the lowest yields going now, 35, usually up to and below 35 hectoliters per hectare, which is quite low. They're not dogmatic about it. They're not trying to be, masochistic and make their vines suffer. It's quite the opposite. They're trying to, treat their vines as well as possible. And bring out the maximum, rather to, maximize the expression of what they've got in the vineyard, as well. So, as mentioned, they were certified organic and biodynamic in 2010. The other thing too, you'll notice if you ever go to, Chateau Pontet Canet, you'll notice horses in the vineyard. They've brought back horses quite a bit. They like that because the horses don't always step in the same place. Like if you put a tractor in there, which is of course heavier, in terms of aerating the soil as they work, horses are lighter than a tractor and they don't always step in the same place. So they're always aerating different parts of the vineyards as they work through there. They're trying to up the use of horses and to hopefully get it up to about 20 horses and get them working. I think currently they're working about 34 to about 36 hectares of the vineyards currently, I believe, are being worked by horses. They also have some cows and some donkeys. The other thing too is that's really cool about Chateau Pontet Canet. Not only are they organic and biodynamic, but they are very, very hands-off as well, too. All the destemming is done, well, by hand, even though that's not necessarily hands-off, but it's not mechanized. But the other thing, too, is you don't find a lot of power outlets in and around the property because they're not using a lot of electricity for their processes. They're not doing pump overs and things like that. But what energy that they do use now, they're using a lot more geothermal sources from the vineyard. And what they do is they're using, it's a hydro system that moves through, because what they don't want now, too, is they've also tried to remove the electrothermal influence on the wine as it ages in the cellar, too. So they've removed that, too. Very, very interesting. And as well, part of the wine, up to about 35% of the wine now is aged in limestone cement 900-liter amphorae that they create. And so they're actually using the limestone and clay and gravel in the vineyard to create these amphorae jars. So actually, aging it in, vessels that are sourced from the soil in which the grapes were grown. It's very, very cool. Very, very cool. I'm excited because 2010 is a fantastic vintage in Bordeaux. Quality is great right from the top down to the bottom. It was a warm vintage. It got off to a late start, a little bit of unstable weather during the flowering, and there was a lot of heat and drought until about mid-September. But the nice thing was there was a really good diurnal shift, so temperatures dropped down at night, so we were able to maintain good natural acidity in the wines. Harvest happened between September 29th to October 17th. In the case of this wine is 65% Cabernet Sauvignon, 30% Merlot, 3% Cabernet Franc, 2% Petit Verdot. 50% of it is aged in new oak, 35% of it is aged in the amphorae, the amphorae jars, and 15% of the wine is aged in neutral oak. So you don't get that big dollop of vanilla, coconut, high toast oak. There's a real freshness to these wines, which I really like to see. Now, Pauillac wines tend to produce very stern, concentrated wines that take a long time to come around. Certainly, there's some very rich, ripe tannins on this wine, and 14 years on, they're still integrating as well too with the oak and all. But I was surprised. I pre-tasted this wine, for what is typically thought to be a very, very concentrated wine that will take years for it to unfold. I did a slow decant actually over the course of the last 2 days and let it come up, and man, I gotta tell you, the nose on this wine today, I did a little bit of a pre-nosing, pre-tasting before I came on camera here. This wine is just jumping out of the glass. It's amazing. So, you know what? I think this is a good time. Let's flip the camera around. I think we can pull this up on the Google Earth map so we'll give you an idea where we're located and what's going on here. Let's move the bottle out of shot here. But yeah, so we are in Bordeaux, of course. We are just, here's Paris, so we're in the southwest portion of France, along the Bay of Biscay. So here we've got the Gironde River going north from the city of Bordeaux. And what this is when we talk about Bordeaux, north of the city of Bordeaux, this is what's called the left bank. This is all drained by Dutch engineers years ago to expose the predominantly gravelly, with a little bit some clay outcroppings as well. But typically when we talk about Bordeaux, this is the left bank north of the city of Bordeaux. And typically the wines here are Cabernet Sauvignon dominated, but when we get the split down here in the river, this is when we call north of the city of Bordeaux the left bank, this is the right bank by the Dordogne River. And these soils here are mostly clay-based. So the wines here on the right bank, when we think about Saint-Emilion, Pomerol, Franzac, Côte-des-Francs, these are mostly Merlot-based wines with Cabernet Franc and then maybe a little bit of Cab Sauv as well blended into it. But that's our left bank versus right bank comparison. But north here, we are north of Margaux and Saint-Julien. And then just as we get north of Saint-Julien, we hit Pauillac. So there's some really good gravel in here. I'll pull it up in a wee bit, but we're very, very close to the banks of the river. We're literally about a kilometer and a half just from the banks of the Gironde River here. And just here, Here's Chateau Mouton Rothschild in their vineyards, and then here, literally right across the road, is Chateau Pontet Canet. As I mentioned, 81 hectares, 100 different plots, all certified organic and biodynamic. I'm just going to pull up a quick shot if I can find it here. Oopsie. I don't have it here. Oh, I do have it here. Bear with me. Sorry about that. So here we go. Here's a shot of the chateau, looking out over the vineyards. And this is actually one of the secrets as well. This is what we call Gunz gravel. So what this is, these are quartz pebbles that were washed from the Gironde River about 2 million years ago. And again, a little bit like the slate in the Mosel, this is a bit of a heat trap. So this is the Gunz gravel. These quartz pebbles is what lends its name, for example, to another Bordeaux chateau, Chateau du Cru Beaucaillou, the beautiful pebbles. Well, these are the beautiful pebbles. These are the quartz pebbles of Gunz gravel, and then below that they have a substratum of a little bit of clay limestone. Speaking of the clay limestone, here are some of the 900-liter amphorae, the concrete fermentation eggs that are used at the chateau that they source from the soil there. And here's one of their horses. Like I say, they're expanding their use of horses throughout the vineyards. I think they're only using horses on about 36 hectares so far, but they're hoping to expand that. They were putting in new stables a little while ago. So, yeah, cool stuff. Let's just pull back if I may, get our bottle back into shot. So as mentioned, fabulous vintage. Like I said, the quality is really good from the top to the bottom. It follows on the heels of 2009, another good vintage, but I tend to find that the 2009 vintage, if I had to generalize, the 2009 vintage shows probably a little bit more opulence and maybe is a little bit more forward, whereas I find the 2010 wines, especially on the left bank, tend to be quite structured and need some time. Pontet Canet, it's interesting. I think it shows a lot of the hallmarks of Pauillac, that cassis, that cedar, that tobacco, a really good backbone, but maybe a slightly more modern take, I would say, on it. And I don't know whether the effect of the amphorae, aging, and organics and biodynamics lends itself to making a little bit more of a fruit-driven and maybe perhaps a little less strict old-school style. But make no mistake, this is a very, very concentrated wine, a long-haul wine. I think this wine will easily go 40, 50 years if you want it to. 14 years on now, I think the wine is totally drinkable, but it needs, to be approached with, a good decant right now. But yeah, you know what? I think this might be a great time to perhaps dive into it and give the wine a try. Now, as I mentioned, I actually opened this wine 2 days ago. I find so often we drink the wine and it's showing well, but quite often, especially with a vintage like this, which is structured, I think it's a wine that needs a good head start. Too often we either drink the wines too young. A lot of these wines come into market. With Bordeaux, the thing is, we buy the wines, as I mentioned, we go every April to try the wine while it's still in barrel. It's called the en primeur, where you try the young wine while it's still aging. All the trade and the media descend on Bordeaux and basically kick the tires on the new vintage. They release it while the wine is still aging in barrel, and you can buy it while it's still in barrel. What happens is they offer it to you at a good discount, and it's nice for the chateaus because, of course, it's cash flow. They get their money up front. And then when the wine is bottled and ready to go, customers will take delivery basically 3 years later. And we see that here with the BCLDB. They often, they'll always in the fall, generally October, sometimes November, release the wines. So that's what's going to happen this coming fall. We'll be seeing the 2021 vintage being released probably in October of this year. And so quite often we see that a lot of wines come to market, and that's what's floating around. And quite often we like to call this the baby fat Bordeaux stage. A lot of people will buy, and it's difficult to buy wine and store it for an appropriate period of time, because a lot of people either don't have the facilities to properly store wine, or they don't have the patience. Hey, I see our good friend Pamela Cohen joining us. Good to see you, Pam. I'm glad you could join us here. And I see our good friend Andy from L'Abattoir. Good to see you. I'm glad you could join us here this week. And mentioning about storing, it's difficult because we don't either have the proper facilities to store our wine or the patience to hang on to it for that long. So, and it's doubly difficult too. I don't pity, but I mean, I feel sorry for restaurants because it's hard, being able to go back. I mean, if you decided, like if I were to offer a restaurant, go back, and get some of this, say, 2010 Chateau Pontet Canet and offer it to you today, well, I'd have to go, buy it at today's prices. So, of course, those prices would have gone up. You have to pay for storage and provenance and shipping and all of that. So, it makes it very, very difficult to be able to put it on at a decent price. So, but also, there's the rub sometimes, too. You go to a restaurant and you find very young vintages on the list. So a lot of people don't have the opportunity to try these wines when they are, hitting their plateau. And quite often that's the thing, when I talk about the baby fat stage, you're trying the wine when it's only 3-4 years old, especially in some of these, Grand Cru Classe wines. They're upfront. They have a lot of bright fruit. They have a lot of very mouth-puckering, astringent tannins that are still unresolved. And you get this big blast of fruit, but you don't have those layers of flavor and that length on the finish that you can, drill down on once the wine is in your mouth. And to me, that's this is why we buy, some of these wines, because they have the ability. You can keep them in your cellar for a number of years if you have a significant event or a date or birthday and anniversary, a birth or what have you. Bordeaux is a great cellar candidate. So anyway, I'm talking a lot and I'm getting thirsty, so I wouldn't mind trying the wine. As I mentioned, I opened this wine literally 2 days ago. Did a quick double decant just to remove any sediment. There wasn't too much sediment. I was actually fairly surprised. Double decanted it back into the bottle. And, just kept it open without the cork for a while. Not a lot of air getting into it, but man, whew, that wine really is just like jumping out of the glass. So, beautiful color. I've got to say, 14 years on, this wine has got a very, very healthy, deep core to it. And, not a lot of evolution on the rim just yet. It's still a very healthy pinky glow, but man, that nose. This is my Riedel Overture Magnum. So basically it's the Vinum Bordeaux glass done in lead-free crystal on a shorter stem. So, I mean, theoretically these could go in the dishwasher, although I never put my stems in the dishwasher. I always hand wash them. But a nice good-sized bowl. We're probably talking about a 20-ounce bowl here, so lots of room for the wine to get some air and develop. Let's give it a swirl and a sniff, see what we've got. Oh, right off the get-go, man. There's just so much deep black currant and tobacco and earthy medicinal nose. This is left bank Bordeaux in spades. This is a Cabernet Sauvignon dominant wine there too, but wow. It really reminds me of my grandpapa's pipe tobacco there. It's not fuggy, but it's just really, 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 it's got this deep smoky, and again, a bit of a medicinal note to it as well, too. A little bit of cured meat, iodine as well too, but that really, really high-toned black currant cedar. Yeah, totally. This is totally Pauillac, for sure. And really just exploding out of the glass right now too. Wow. Let's give it a taste and see what we've got. Mmm. 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 Wow. Muscular, big, broad, and again, that wine just washes across my tongue. Really expands. It's definitely got that peacock tail going on, but wow. Again, that cassis, dark berry, earthy, cedary oak as well too, for sure. It's got some really muscular but silky tannins. And what I love about it is the acidity. It really kicks in. There's a real freshness to this wine. I'm surprised. This is a hot year. I know in the right bank, a lot of the Merlot-based wines were, topping 15% alcohol. This wine's probably about 14.5% too, but doesn't drink like it. It's certainly opulent, mouth-filling, but it's not a caricature by any means. Really, really nicely balanced. I'm just going to have another sip if I may. Mm. 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 Wow. That's beautiful. That's really very poised. To me, this is not so buttoned down and severe as some of the older school wines. I'm thinking of things like, I don't know, maybe, Grand Prix Lacoste, or maybe even Léoville Barton. It's a little bit more modern than that, but drinking really, really nicely right now too. Pontet Canet, 2010 in our glass. This is, showing well right now. Like I said, with a good long decant. Definitely needs a little bit of protein right now too. I'm thinking, leg of lamb, or, a roast beef, obviously, natural choices, but, even on its own, totally drinkable. But I think this will only improve, 14 years on. I think, peak drinking window, I think this wine can easily go another, 15, 25 years, no problem, depending on your cellar and how you like it as well too. So, that's one of the beauties. This wine, as I said, it was only classified as a fifth growth, but it's currently sort of held in the same esteem as a lot of what they call super seconds in Bordeaux, like Léoville Casse and a few other properties too. So Tesseron family has done a great job here. Classic style with perhaps a little bit more of a modern twist to it, but very, very impressive wines. We still have access to wines like this too, so if you're ever on the lookout for something like this, we don't currently have this available. Like I said, I wanted to grab a bottle and see what was going on, but beautiful classic Bordeaux from a fantastic vintage. And like I said, keep your eyes open. 2010, if you can find them. Quality is great from the top of the heap right down to the petits chateaus. Some really, really good wines, and if you can find them. But we can get this. We have to go looking, but a lot of people compare with when these wines first came into market. That's their barometer for pricing. And in order for us to go back and get them today, you are going to pay a wee bit of a premium. So fair warning. Business, not a lot going on. It's been quiet a little bit around Canada Day, and now heading into the 4th of July soon as well. But lots of wines still coming in. We've got some new wines from northwest Spain, from Bodegas Pardevalles. We've got some Prieto Picudo Tinto available. We've got still a few bottles left from our Rioja supplier, our new Rioja supplier, Ametzola de la Mora. We still have a little bit of Lopez de Heredia if you want something classic, old school, historic Riojas as well too. We have reloaded a few of our Selbach Oster wines. Sebastian Selbach was just here recently, both in Vancouver and Victoria, spreading the gospel of good German wines. We just had a reload of the Zeltinger Himmelreich Cabinet Halbtrocken, which is available at BCLDB stores, and a few other spec wines as well too. So keep your eyes prized for that. Again, if you have not done so already, please do follow us on Instagram. I do invite you. We'll keep you up to date of any new wines coming in or anything else that's happening in the local market here in British Columbia. Not sure what we're going to do next week. We might go back to Rioja for now that we've just been talking about it. We've got some samples that have come in. I've got some 2015 Reserva. I've also got some Gran Reserva I might whip out and check out as well too. So anyway, I'm Christian with Waldorf Wine Group. Thank you so much for joining us here this week. And like I said, if you haven't done so already, please do follow us here on Instagram. We'd love to see you here for Waldorf Wine Wednesday. Anyway, that's all we've got this week. Take care. See you soon. Bye for now.